In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to add custom colors into the sketch libraries that we set up through the Material Theme Editor from Google. And there's quite a few times where you'll want to add extra colors to the ones that you can define in the Material Theme Editor. So in the Material Theme Editor, you can define a primary color, a secondary color, and a surface. But often there'll be a time where you will want to have an error color that is used in another piece of software which you'll want to define in this library, or you'll have a validation, other validation colors, or your client might just have multiple primary colors that they use. Maybe they've got 3 or 4 colors. And the example I'm going to use is our agency colors. In our agency, we have a green, a blue, and a yellow that we use with equal priority. And if I was to use the Material Theme Editor in its normal state, I really could only define 2 colors and a load of gradients or steps underneath those colors. And although that would be helpful, I would miss out on, a third of our kind of brand coloring. So to get started, I'm going to jump into Sketch. I'm going to go up to Plugins. I'm going to go to the Material Editor, and I'm going to open that. And we're going to start with the baseline theme. Just because it's easy and I know it. It will ask me to save it in a shared location, which I am absolutely not going to do. I'm just going to save it straight onto the desktop because this is totally temporary. If you're unfamiliar with this plugin, in the description below is a blog post which has got some links in there, and it's got a download link to go and get it. There's a particular link in there which is really, really helpful for getting started, and anyone that we know who has wanted to get started with this, that's one that we've used and it's super helpful. So now that we've got it open, you can see that I've got a theme color palette that I can pick from. And I've got 3 colors defined. I've got this purple, this turquoise, and this white. And they go primary, secondary, surface. So let's start changing these. So I'm going to take my primary color and I'm going to change that to the Brightech yellow just by inputting the color here. And I'm going to change our text color. And you'll notice at the bottom there's an accessibility checker for checking contrast, which is super helpful. That's just really helpful, just so that straight off the bat, as soon as you put in that number, you know whether it fails or passes. Sometimes I've got values slightly wrong, and that's picked it up really quickly, and that's really great. So we've defined a color. We'll go for our primary. We'll go to our secondary, which I'm going to use our blue that we use for Brightech. This is all in our brand. And again, I'm going to change the text color to 23, 23, 23, which we commonly use for text. And I'm going to change the surface color because we always go slightly off white to F1, F1, F1. Ooh. And there we go. So if I close this and hit save, you'll notice that we've started to create a library. And if I jump into the cover, this looks like a really beautiful Brightech app. But the issue is that we don't have any of the Brightech green in it. So a whole third of our brand we are missing out. If I go to my layout file and I start to use this, so I go baseline and I start to add in a few things. Let's go for a fab. Obviously, I'm just placing these on the screen. This isn't. Usually I'd start with an artboard and actually define what I was going to build rather than just plonking stuff on the theme. What you'll notice is that you get all these overrides on the right-hand side, and from these I can change lots of different things. But the main thing that we're looking at is changing the colors. So if I go down to color, you'll notice that I've got lots of shades of the yellow turning into a kind of a dark orange, and I've got lots of shades of the blue turning into a dark blue. And that's really nice, but as you'll notice, there's absolutely no way of me changing or putting that green in there. So to do so, I need to go back into our library. I go into symbols, and as you'll see, this is a big set of symbols. Like there's loads in here. Contrast isn't too good on this, but you'll notice that there's loads. Fortunately, I know that somewhere down here on the right-hand side are all of the symbols. So let me select those. It'll take a bit of time. My laptop isn't the quickest. Let me zoom in on this. Right. These are all our colors. Really, somewhat unhelpfully, every single symbol in the library has the grid turned on. Usually that's fine because you can see corners really well and you can see the shapes really well. But when it comes to colors, that's somewhat unhelpful because all of these look red. So if you want to get rid of that, you just select the artboard, select view and go show grid. What's really, really annoying in Sketch, and one of the downsides is that if I select all of these artboards and then go view and turn off show grid, I'd expect it to turn off the grid for all of them, but it doesn't. It only turns it off for the first one. So I could go down and do all of those, but I'm not going to. To add a new color, we need to add a new symbol because that's where we're getting all of our colors from. So Command D, to copy this across, I've just picked the first color secondary one. And you'll notice that all of our color symbols are defined in this kind of tree structure, which goes color, grouping, and then gradient. So we could, if we wanted to, go color, tertiary, and then the gradient. But what we quite often like to do with our clients is to put brand, because then that knows that then we know that the kind of brand colors that we really want to define are in that folder. So I'm going to follow suit with this because it's what I know. So let's go brand, Brightech _ green. Give it a name that we absolutely know. Apart from that, I can't spell Brightech, so I'll just go back and do that. Now, within that symbol is a rectangle, and all we're going to do is just change the symbol colors. Is it there we go, nice. If I want to do a few of those, the same, we want to define our kind of our gradients and our kind of color steps. I could go here, I could take another Brightech green and call it Brightech green, 900 for example, go into that rectangle and change that to the 900 value that we use, which is D32. Cool. And that is now pretty set and ready to go. So let's save that again. So now that we've defined those two colors, I want to see them in the layout file. So what I'll do is I'll jump into the layout file, and hopefully this is now synced, saved and synced. And if I scroll down to the yellow here, say I wanted the backdrop of this to now have the green, hit container color, and you'll notice, lo and behold, there's our Brightech green, and we can change to it. And pretty much for adding kind of normal colors, that's the job done. You add colors as a symbol. You make them really obvious in the tree. So if we go insert symbol, baseline on the symbols, it goes star, color, and then we've got this brand palette. So we've got a primary palette, secondary palette, surface palette, brand palette. That is pretty much kind of the job done. There are a few little quirks. So for example, if I look at the top bar here, and I want to change the color for this icon, you notice that if I click into here and scroll down, the green doesn't appear. In fact, what it's got is a subset of colors for icons. If you want to get to any of the colors, all you do is select this one. You look for the one that says primary or secondary. Click on that and you'll get a few extra overrides drop down. Hit the first one, go into it, and now you've got every color from the symbol palette. And all we do is just select the top one, and you'll notice that this close button up here is now changed. Great. So when we want to define colors, that is pretty much 99% of the way that we do it. We add a color as a symbol, and then we can use it as an override. But there are a couple of little quirks, and one of them I want to talk you through because it's really commonly used, and that's in text fields. So in the material components, if I scroll down here and I get to our text fields, which is down here, and I look at this outline error one here. Now, this is a really nice field. It's great. We use these kind of material components all the time because you've got a caption, you've got input, and you've got a label, you've got the icon defined. Is a really, really nice component. The only issue with it in the Sketch library is that I can't define many of the colors very easily. So I can only define this icon color, the caption label colors I can't define, and the outline I can't define. I can't define them using overrides. So what I need to do is I need to go into the symbol, grab the outline and change its border color to whatever I want. And then I need to, with the text colors, I need to go and find their symbol. Now the symbol is caption text error left, which I can see here on the override. If I double click on this, unfortunately that isn't the caption text error left, that is a text field element label. So the error left caption symbol has been put in as a symbol override on the other symbol, if that makes sense. So to find it, I always collapse all the groups, so it's a bit easier. I just need to go and try and find that text caption. So scroll up, 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 up. I think I've gone a bit too far. There we go, text caption error left. So Command 2 to go and find it. And now I can change the color manually on this caption to whichever one I want. Word of warning, make sure that you do change it on all of the error captions, just so you don't have to come back and do it later. In this case, there's only 2. You might be defining others. So just make sure you do them all at once because you're doing them manually. And then you won't forget and your designs won't be wrong. So if I go back to my material component now, you'll notice that we've got a new red as the border and a new red as the caption. But the red for the icon color is still wrong. So we go back to symbols, we scroll down, we find our colors, gone a bit too far again, colors, icons, error, Command 2 to find it, select the rectangle, change that red, go back to our material components, and it's now the right color. Save that. And if we go back into our layout file, we might need to wait for the library to sync. But it doesn't look as if it will have to. So we can go text field, outlined, error, enabled, wait for the load, and that's now got all of the correct reds on it. There are a few other little quirks, but if you follow those steps of just making sure that you find the right symbol, manually change its color, you won't go wrong. Great, I hope that was really helpful. As mentioned before, there is a blog post below with some really helpful links, especially if you're looking to get started with a material theme editor for Sketch. If you have any questions, do hit me up on Twitter. And if there's anything else that you want us to cover, please just comment below and we'll try and do a video on it. Thank you very much.